me a long time to learn to stop and say the image is good. I've learned that if I can get to 90, 95% in my mind of what I love about the photo, then I can just be done with it. And
Hey, Chris, how are you doing?
hey,
Welcome
man,
to the podcast.
everything's good, man. Awesome. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to talk.
Yeah, just give the viewers an introduction about yourself and your
Okay.
photography.
Yeah, definitely. My name's Chris, located in Southern California. I've been living off my camera for about 12 years now. I kind of grew up with a camera in my hand, but didn't kind of make it a career until about 12 years now. I work in the portrait world, specifically in youth sports portraits. We do what we call volume photography. We work with sports leagues. Our undercurrent is typically martial arts. We kind of got our big push into this business in martial arts. Prior to that, I pretty much was a journeyman, and I shot everything from real estate to food. I think I've tried everything on the market when it comes to photography. Really appreciate you having me on.
Did you play sports growing up?
Yeah, I did. I played hockey, which is kind of weird for SoCal, but I grew up in the 90s. There was this really big hockey push, roller hockey and ice hockey got bigger, Mighty Ducks and all that. My sport was hockey and then golf. I grew up playing baseball and soccer as well. It just wasn't my thing.
Nice. And do you have any hobbies now outside of photography?
I train Jiu-Jitsu. I've been doing that for a few years
Nice.
now. So that's one that really keeps mentally balanced, physically healthy. Probably one of the best communities. We got our big push into this business from me being a freelance photographer, use Jiu-Jitsu as a launching ramp. And then I play a lot of golf. I'm a lifer golfer. Oddly enough, being California is kind of weird, but guns, I've been really getting into the art of shooting a gun in the last year. So I've been really practicing a lot and just getting better at that art. Yeah, it's fun. All of it's fun.
Who needs jiu-jitsu when you have a gun?
You'd be surprised. Yeah, you'd be surprised. There's something about jiu-jitsu. It's just this weird visceral thing between you and one person, and it's a physical chess match. It's been famously coined as a chess match with severe consequences. It's really fun.
What belt level are
I'm currently white belt. I'm at the very beginning of my journey, but I'm 2 years in,
nice.
so hoping that blue belt is coming soon. Usually that's between the 2 and 3rd years. This year should be a big one for me.
I had a coworker that did jiu-jitsu. I've actually photographed a few jiu-jitsu tournaments. I'll have to show you one of my favorite jiu-jitsu shots at the end here and get your opinion on
Yeah,
that.
we do a lot of tournament photography and jiu-jitsu. And I've had to hire photographers, and most of them have quit after the first try because it's not easy. Action sports are already famously hard. The speed of it, the glass, the composition, all of it comes into play. In jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of faces buried into other parts of the body. So a lot of times you get a lot of backs, and it takes a lot out of you as a photographer.
And photography is your 100% income, your full-time career, your main source of income. Is that accurate?
Yes.
To say?
Yes, in 2009, I started working for a company called Tama Drums and Ibanez Guitars. They're under a banner called Hoshino in LA, the biggest supplier of guitars and drums from one of the Japanese markets, kind of close to what you might consider like Yamaha as a brand. I was in their marketing department and I was their photographer, videographer. That was the catalyst for me starting to earn income with just a camera in my hand, and also the catalyst to realizing that when a company hires you to be a creative and they put a cap and almost handcuffs on you as a creative, me, the person that I am, I want creative freedom to create something. If you hire me as a skill set, I really want to create something. They handcuffed me a little bit. I did that for 3 years till about 12. And then I left. I moved back to Orange County, and I just said, I'm just going to use this camera. And I just dove in. Luckily enough, I've made some connections with some friends in real estate and started door knocking on every restaurant just to get, hey, let me shoot your food. You need to update your website, whatever it was I could do. So that was kind of my kickoff. But yeah, earning 100% of my income for the last 12 years.
Amazing. Well, let's get to your picture showcase here. We don't want to keep people waiting. They came to see the pictures, right? So let's get on to it. This is a pretty intense shot. Just give us a background on this picture and the pose and how you create this effect.
So this guy, his name is Jacob. He's a rad dude. Him and his dad, they have one of these relationships that I'm just like thriving to have with my son. His first year as a wrestler for his high school, he was the only wrestler and his dad was the coach. He went around to every other high school in their district and wrestled by himself. When I heard that story, his dad hit me up and said I wanted to get some promos for the next year. I was like, just come to one of our shoots and we'll take care of you. You guys deserve it. But yeah, this photo is comprised of obviously 2 photos. We did a regular session. We used kind of our normal setup. It's like a 3-point light, key light, 2 kickers. And most of the work that I do is very labor intensive. So, you call it composition work or comp work. I knock out the background of the subjects and then I kind of build these fake backgrounds and all these kind of layers. This was just a one-off I did. I was being bored and creative and I decided to get him something cool for his his Instagram profile. So I took 2 different photos that we had done. The pose is kind of a typical wrestling pose. I personally love the Superman pose, especially in wrestling. So we went with the Superman pose. And the other one, his nickname's the Boy. We did a couple close-up crop shots of him kind of holding up his necklace. I thought they'd be awesome to kind of comp together. And this is probably comprised of probably about 7 or 8 other layers, and just Photoshop and a little bit of ingenuity and some time. And you kind of start to create some cool stuff.
You got some mad Photoshop skills. I'm impressed.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's definitely its own art.
You're self-taught on Photoshop?
Like, yeah, man. I mean, I used to love making fake photos of my friends when I had an office job. So I would take like a photo on an old iPhone at the time. I would just go into Photoshop and learn to knock the background out. And as I got better, I learned about layering and I learned about masking and all these things. So 100% self-taught. I never took one Photoshop course. YouTube has helped push me in some directions. A lot of it too is just being observant to some of the guys that I've followed that also do great comp work. And like, what did they do? Where did they get that layer? How did they make that effect? And just spending the time to mimic the effect and then put it in the bank for later.
That's cool. The Boy is an interesting nickname. I don't know if I've ever heard that for a wrestler.
I'm lost for words for the reasoning behind it. I know he explained it to me, but I totally forgot the reason why. I think a lot of times now, social media and kids sports, nicknames and monikers and things that make you stand out just a little more, they definitely help your presence. And I've learned since being in the kid world for the last couple of years, that social media drives colleges to find you. They're looking for this presence online to recruit you. These types of things are really huge for kids trying to get scholarships and even go professional in some sports.
Awesome. Let's take a look at your next one here.
Yeah.
Let me get it ready real fast. A little different, crazy setup here.
Yeah, this is a great photo. What we have here is, what is that? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 individual photos shot by themselves on our normal backdrop, a key light, 2 kickers. Again, we knock out the background of that photo so that there's nothing behind them. And we layer these together in Photoshop. I create all these false backdrops, which is much different than some of the other guys in the industry. There are people that sell these backdrops. And I don't want to be just the status quo. So I actually find elements online or shoot elements myself and I make these backdrops. This is actually our 2025 nighttime backdrop for baseball. It's going to be pretty cool. No one will have this one yet. This is off one of our sample sheets for 2025. We use something called a posing sheet when we shoot these. Every athlete gets a specific amount of poses. First one that we shoot is called the team pose. When I build these, they're fixed in a position that makes this kind of look like that Friday Night Lights or that really cool Superman-y high scale kind of comp photo. Not only is there a math problem to keeping the size of each person similar,
Right.
but the way that you pose them is so important. And baseball, they love the non-smile. It's a personal favorite of mine. It works really well in martial arts. But sometimes when we do volleyball or basketball or other sports, especially sometimes girls, they want to do the smiles. We always ask the leagues we work with what's more important for them. But yeah, these are great, man. They're fun. I think I've come across more people that don't realize that they're fake in a way, that we create these and they weren't all personally posed, but it's a compliment to our work. I don't know if you've ever worked in an area where you have to pose more than 4 or 5 people in a row and expect them to all pay attention and get that one good shot. And then you talk about lighting and consistency and all that. And it just becomes a whole world of complications. So as much as it complicates and adds workflow on the back end, it declutters everything on site. This is a very streamlined process to creating this style of photography.
What I heard just about that is just about a preparation in your mind to do this photo. You're thinking about this photo before you even started the photo shoot. This wasn't like something, oh, I think I'll throw together a team photo of these people. You had the poses in mind and this photo in your mind before you even started taking the pictures, which is cool.
Yeah, it's important to be planned. Part of the romantic part of being a photographer is the essence of you're capturing a moment, and different styles allow you to just capture a moment. In this setting, when you're being paid for a very specific skill set, you have to be very methodical. And this is kind of where my wife comes into play. We're a 2-person team. I'm 10 feet away at my camera on a tripod, and she's actually there getting them positioned on the mat, posed this way, kind of telling them, hey, this is what we're going to do really quick. We burn and turn kids like that all day. You know, a baseball league could be 500 kids. We're doing that in an 8-hour period. We might have 2 teams of us doing that, but the goal is to get them all done in a day. You know, it's very methodical. Yeah, a lot of planning and preparation.
How did you decide which girls had the glove and which ones were carrying the bat and which ones had the ball in their hand? Was that purpose or that they could do whatever they want?
The team photo, the one you're looking at, it's very specific. We literally have a piece of paper, or my wife uses an iPad now, and on the paper it shows the first player is getting this pose, second player is getting this pose, third player getting this pose. So the comped photo has that consistency. Not everyone's holding a ball. Not everyone has a bat, because when you start to layer it, there's some things like the bat can't go in front of a face. Those kinds of things
Right.
that you run into problems. So you kind of have to spend the time practicing and maybe doing a few that didn't work out well. You kind of learn those lessons. Everything is very specific. We give them what we call a team photo, which is a specific pose that they get in an order. Then the second pose, what we call the mom pose, that's the one that's usually purchased by the parent. That one's a smiling photo. That one, we usually do a very similar pose for everybody. Usually they'll either get a bat and a ball, a bat and a glove, or a ball and a bat. You know, baseball, they have to have at least one prop.
Do you sell both physical prints and online
Yeah.
files? Or
Yes, kids leave that day. They take a QR code home with them. The parents scan the QR code. It opens up an account. When the photos go live, they're able to view all the photos from the session. Because our photos have a lot of computer work built into it, they only see the final photo. We don't allow them to see the raw photos, which deters a little bit of purchasing, maybe because they don't get a choice too much. But we do a good job of supplying 2 smiles and then obviously the team photo as a choice. And then they get all the keepsakes opportunities, the keychains, the buttons are really popular in baseball, coffee mugs, towels. They can get all of that printed if they want to through our store. And then there's option for downloads. Downloads are more expensive only because obviously you can take it, download it, and reprint it. So, but they give the option.
Yeah.
We're one of the few providers in this space that offers the download that doesn't cost them like $75 a photo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me stop sharing. Before we look at your next couple of photos, I have some fun questions for you. What excites you to do this, to go out and shoot, to go to these schools, to keep doing this weekend after weekend, day after day?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I've always been drawn to like entrepreneurship, and to be able to do it in a creative space. To me, that's like the hierarchy of entrepreneurship. You know, most people probably have the savvy skills to do some type of business entrepreneurship, but to do it in a creative space, I feel like the hardest thing to marry in the world is art and business. Most people are really good at art, and then people are really good at business, but there's very few that are great at art and business. So that alone is a drive that keeps me wanting to get up and keep doing it. And I just love the work. I know I've come across a lot of people that just couldn't handle doing this type of workload. It burned them out really quick. And I get up every morning and I just enjoy every piece of it. Part of me loves also Photoshops. I think staying in the world where I'm still kind of attached to that like youth love of the program itself keeps me involved. And then shooting photography, I'm blessed to be able to do something with a device that allows me to create art that it just feels like it's supposed to be on my side. I don't have any, I don't see any place where I couldn't be shooting some type of photography and earning a living off of it into my 60s, 70s, and even 80s. And there's some beauty involved in that, where most people are in this kind of a idea where you just have to get to a certain age and you can retire and you can do whatever you want. And I'm like, but I just enjoy shooting photography. So if my means to earning is off a camera and I can just continue to do it, then there's just no reason for me to get burnt out. There's no way I could ever get burnt out by it. I had a feeling once this initially took off that it was the right choice. And it was the first time in my life where I thought I was making a really good choice to further not only my family, but my career. It's only paid forward a million times. The community that we've made, the work that I do, making a living again is going great. Yeah, I'm very blessed to have this opportunity.
These kids will see these super cool photos of them when they're older and they can pass it down to their kids. You're making memories that will last for a long time.
Yeah, photography, that's the root of it, right? Is that memory. Like, you know, if you're in a position where you're not just shooting inanimate objects and you're really creating, you're capturing a moment in time that most people will look back on, and then that moment will flood back into the brain. They'll get that dopamine and they'll be stoked on that they had that picture. So it's definitely special.
Awesome. Let's take a look at another picture. Let me get it ready. This is a very colorful, fun shot.
Yeah. Again, a lot of our work, you know, I dabble in other styles of photography, but the majority of my work it looks kind of similar. But this one was really cool. This was our first try at cheerleading. She's actually this little girl, you know, she's so good at jiu-jitsu. We met her mom through jiu-jitsu, and she just didn't like the photos that their cheerleading squad had done that year. Fortunately for us, we get this a lot. We get a parent that hated what they got from their current league. Yeah. And then like, hey, can we just do something special with you? So we only spent 5 minutes with this girl to shoot these photos. And my wife on the fly, we kind of had a quick brain session. Hey, let's pick 7 poses that we think will be cool with pom-poms in our hand and cheerleading poses. We just kind of went with it. And I got home and I was like, okay, I have to work with red and yellow. Let's figure this out. So I just started to compile elements. The bokeh look was from this Christmas backdrop thing that I had already had because I was working on some stuff for the Christmas time this year. I was able to kind of repurpose that, and the whole background, the lights. I found a really cool stream of lights. I just kind of sit there and tinker until it starts to look right. There's this thing that happens in your brain when you know you have it right. It happens with composition,
Yeah.
it happens with lighting, and Photoshop. I also have it in that. The minute that I get something where it starts to look correct, I just start to fine tune from those moments. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm done. I'm very good about stopping. It took me a long time to learn to stop and say the image is good. Will any image in your mind ever be like 100%? Probably not, right? We're always going to have something else maybe we could have changed. Oh, I wish her eye would have done this, or I wish her hand would have been here, down to the littlest things when you start to analyze your own photography. But I've learned that if I can get to 90-95% in my mind of what I love about the photo, then I can just be done with it. And this one was special. For my first try at a new backdrop, I usually have a lot of things I want to change on the next one. But this one, I was like, wow, we could probably just sell this backdrop immediately to more cheerleading squads. Lucky with Photoshop, I can change colors and all that to mix and match to other outfits. It goes a long way.
Most people probably didn't realize that you matched this backdrop to her colors. They probably just thought it's a random backdrop, but no, there's something behind it, right? You're thinking, oh, I need to integrate the colors together. I do like how you did that.
I've always had that in the back of my mind, that I always want to try to integrate everything in the photo to be some type of match and kind of play off of each other. You know, I love colors. Luckily in this world, I get to work with a lot of colors. I get to kind of exercise those options more often than most people.
Have you seen those wedding photos with dinosaurs chasing people in the background and stuff like that? Have you ever done anything like that with like mythical creatures coming out?
No, and I think I know one of the guys that exactly you're talking about. He's one of my favorite follows on Instagram. Yeah, I haven't had any options yet. We just haven't had the quirky clients yet, but I would definitely, I mean, if you offered me an opportunity to go shoot your family photo and you want to be chased by a T-Rex, I would jump all over that. That sounds like it would be so fun. I literally follow a guy, I think his name's Igor. He's Eastern European, but he does some wild stuff in that same world where it's just a cool family photo shoot, a very silly, very fun. They just give him creative reign to do some fun stuff. I love anyone that gets to work in the freedom of creativity and get paid for it. But yeah, man, I would love it. I would love to do that.
Well, I hope someone watching this podcast sees that and does that for your shoot for you coming up here. I'll cross my fingers for you.
Thank you.
All right, I know you love questions, so let me ask you another question here. What's the best piece of photography advice you've learned from a mentor or that you received that really helped you get over the edge and improve?
Do things that you're passionate about, and that's kind of a given, but do them to failure. The biggest lessons I've ever learned were based off failure and not success. Success is fleeting. I've noticed that in the last couple of years. You know, you land that big gig that you were really trying to land and you get it and it goes by and it's done and it's like, what's next? But every time that I've failed at something, the lessons that I've learned during the failure always drove me farther in this career than anything else. I always tell people, like, suck some more, fail some more, until one day you suck a little bit less. And then one day you fail a little bit less. And then one day the stride picks up in the tempo, and, you know, I like to call it an undercurrent, or people call it motion or progress. That starts to go in your direction. If those are going in your direction, then you need to ride the wave. Don't stop taking gigs. Don't stop asking people to pay you. The worst thing that someone can do is say they hate the photos and you refund their money and you move on. People think that one bad gig is going to end their whole career. It's not. We've all had gigs that didn't go our way. I recently had a very bad situation with the wedding that I photographed, and it didn't go my way. It had nothing to do with the aesthetics of the wedding. It was assumptions on one end and not communicating clearly, and that's largely my fault, and partly it is their fault, you know. But again, that's a failure, and I learned from it. And the next time, there's going to be better pieces of my contract in place, and there's going to be communication and questions that I didn't ask that will nip up those loose ends for future weddings or future events.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world when you get a photo wrong. I like that attitude. That's a good way to look at it.
No. Yeah, it's hard though. A lot of times we think that because we're artists and we're sensitive that, oh God, they don't like this one photo, it's the end of my career. And it's never that. People have failed worse doing more important things and still had a great career. So.
All right, let's take a look at another one here. Get ready. This is a jiu-jitsu action shot.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. These are two good friends of mine. I train with them over here in Irvine, and we train at Carlson Gracie Irvine. I help our academy with their social media, taking photos of the kids and the adults. I was just in there one day in between class and I was just shooting some stuff. I actually was just with Peter this morning, the guy in the bottom training. They were having a great time. They knew I was photographing and we were telling some jokes in the background. We just happened to capture this amazing moment where they both had this look. This is probably one of my top 3 favorite jiu-jitsu photos, live photos of this year, if not the top one. It was great. Yeah.
So he doesn't have his head or anything. He's laughing, not in pain, just to make it.
Yes.
Clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were cracking some jokes in the background, and they all both kind of sat up laughing at the joke. And if you're in the right space at the right time and everything's kind of lined up good. When I shot this photo, it wasn't cropped like this. This is cropped to 8x10. So a lot of times photographers, they see a photo that they capture a good moment and they're so quickly to deliver it or get it on social media that they forget about a crop. Cropping to me is like the most important tool as a photographer. You can take a great photo and make it outstanding. You could take a bad photo and make it good. This wasn't as cool until I cropped it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, especially for sports photography, there can be a lot of backgrounds or distractions in the background. So the cropping is pretty essential.
Yeah, I totally agree.
All right, let's look at another one. Marvel's going to be calling you about this one.
All right. So every year we do a Halloween photo and we do a Christmas photo with my son. We do something clever based on his costume. Prior years it was Sesame Street and prior year was something else. This year he wanted to be Spider-Man. Up until probably November, his favorite thing was Spider-Man. My wife ordered the costumes and I always tell myself I'm going to plan something and it always ends up being me blind. I'm so busy going into these shoots. We actually just shot these in our living room. We just put a couple lights up to capture. And that morning I woke up and I was like, I'm just going to do a movie poster. I love doing movie posters. I love the idea of a movie poster. Let's just do a Spider-Man and I said Horiverse to my wife. Kind of looked at me funny and I was like, that's it. That's the idea. We're going to do Spider-Man into the Horiverse. Shooting my son, he's only 3, so he doesn't take direction well. I knew I wanted to get him somehow shooting something, doing some kind of action. So I got him to look up at the light. That's actually not his hand. This probably has 30 photos in it that are comped together to make this. I actually used AI to make that. In the middle, you can see it says Horiverse. And if I was to kind of strip away some of the stuff, that's like a cityscape behind them. So I started off with AI. I got that Horiverse sign in there with the cityscape. And it was just me on my computer for about an hour, just trying things and figuring out. And then I was like, okay, I want to put a villain in it. I put the Green Goblin in there. I kind of wish I was in a world where I could get these opportunities to do these for other people, but they're so labor intensive. People don't want to pay. I don't know if I could produce these as cool for like the random person if I wasn't a little more passionate about what it was for.
Right. So these are three separate pictures, one of each that you put together. Okay.
Yeah, everyone is individually shot. And within all of that, there's probably 30 more images inside of that.
You guys need to do a family cosplay for Comic-Con down here in San Diego coming up.
Yeah, I would love that. I photographed one Comic-Con and it was the most wild experience just seeing the levels of that. It would be really fun. I've told her before, and tickets got so expensive in the last couple of years. It was just a big thing to kind of go, you know?
Oh, there's WonderCon in Anaheim, which is run by the same company that owns Comic-Con.
Well, that's much more local. I'll have to check that one out.
I've shot that twice. It used to be held right next to Disneyland there. Check that out.
Yeah, I've done a lot of events there. But yeah, I'll check that out this year. Definitely.
All right. Let's look at another one. This is one cool kid in the shot.
Yeah, this is a cool shot. So this is one of our newer offerings for parents. The color bomb is something that a lot of photographers try to do in camera. And it's really hard to get the colors to look good. And of course, fog and smoke, you can't really control where that goes. It can be really hard to do. There's some big guys out there in the Midwest that do this kind of stuff, but most of it's in camera. So I was like, what if I just did everything out of camera? Luckily for me, AI and a lot of Google searching, I was able to find a pack of really cool color bombs that had a very high resolution. And you can color match them with travel teams, especially since they have colored outfits. Not all leagues. A lot of times leagues don't give each team a separate color. But they're called the Thunder. They're from Long Beach. They wanted something kind of special. We actually did our typical daylight backdrop first. Then they wanted to do something special. So all the parents rallied together and say, hey, we'll pay you, X amount per player to get a whole new photo. I just kind of went to work and figured something out. And luckily I had already wanted to do the color bomb. So I just kind of dove into it. Took probably 30 minutes to piece this back together and then get the color right with the jerseys. And we had already shot these photos. I just took every kid and gave them a new portrait. It's actually a very simple one. There's only 3, 4 layers, 5 with the kid in this one. So it's very simple. Sometimes simple goes a long way, but yeah, this pops, man. I love this.
That's cool. I wish I had these kind of portraits when I was a kid. I'd feel a lot cooler.
I can't tell you how many dad emails we get back or on-site dads will be like, man, we saw you work. Like, where was this stuff when I was a kid? But it was like technology had to get there.
Oh man. All right, let me ask you a couple more
Yeah,
questions here real fast.
yeah, yeah.
You've taken all these photos in your lifetime. What do you want to happen to all these photos when you die, when you're no longer here? Have you ever thought about that, your legacy?
Not yet. I mean, I'm in my early 40s, so I don't think I've gone through those thoughts yet. To be honest, I made a pact with myself at the end of last year that my name would be known as the biggest volume sports photography business in the West Coast. After our year, I wanted to make it in the nation. When I've come across the guys that do higher volume, their work isn't as good. It's
Yeah.
not any attention to detail. I think it's just their lack of skill set. There's also this lack of drive once you hit a certain type of style that makes you money. You don't fix a wheel if it's not broken. I kind of destroy the wheel all the time and try new things. That separated me a little bit. I could have just stuck in martial arts. We made a really good living for 2 years now in martial arts. We were fine. But the minute I had
Yeah.
opportunities in baseball, football, volleyball, I just jumped at it. I think that opened doors. My legacy, I really wanted to just be known as one of the biggest youth sports portrait businesses in the nation. If that was something that people knew, if you hired Chris Hori, you had the guy. That'd be pretty cool, and it'd be cool for my son to see his dad build a business in the art world. That most people, they become freelance and then they make it work, and if it doesn't work, they move on. So it'd be great to do that.
You think you'll get big enough where you might have to like clone yourself, basically train someone on all your Photoshop stuff and how you do it? There's only one of you, right? Taking
Yeah.
all these pictures.
Yes, I've already grown past it just being me. I have a team of people that I use for a lot of like the background knockouts and the setups of photos. That allows us to speed up the process. So if we do shoot a league and it's got 300, 400 kids, I can actually deliver those photos to the parents in less than a week. If that was just me, the burnout you talked about would have happened a long time ago. So luckily, I've pivoted in those moments and found people that were willing to kind of step up and build that team out. I'm already working on a second and a third team for California work for coming into 2025. And my goal for 2025, outside of what we're normally doing, is to expand into new states. I want to build teams in other states. I would handle all the post processing, but they would be my on site, photographers. I'd pay them to show up. They would shoot our exact style. They would know the poses they're going to shoot, the expressions they're going to get. They would send me all those photos, and then my post production team kicks in, and we deliver to the parents. And because it's high volume, we can pay good rates to these photographers, and yeah, man.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on your success
Thank you,
so
man. Yeah,
far.
it's been fun.
Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Totally different than what we've seen so far.
Yeah, when I was going through those photos for you, I was like, man, I'm just kind of pulling the same type of stuff, but we just shoot so much of it. Maybe I'll just throw in some stuff from some of the random shoots we had this year. This was a great photo. That's my son, and that's my mother-in-law. We went down to the baby beach for the day, and he's historically photogenic. Literally, I had a camera in my hand when he was being born. Funny story. My wife's in labor. She's 10 minutes into the labor, and the doctor looks up and he looks at me and he's like, hey, what kind of camera is that? And we had like shop talk in the middle of her pushes. He literally was born with a camera in his face. Up until he was like 2.5, he would just stop and smile anytime I asked for a smile. In the last like 6 to 8 months, he's been a lot more not shy, just like, no, dada, I don't want to take a photo. I don't want to smile. This was a cool moment where I actually was like, hey, bud, can I get a smile? And he just kind of looked up. And photography can be so lucky sometimes. The fact that his hand on his face like that, the angle that I happened to just be at trying to take this photo, call it skill, call it luck, call it just being at the right time in the right spot. I will admit that flare coming off the right side is not a real flare. The sun was there, but I added that flare just to give it a little depth. We have this framed on the wall. It's one of my favorite photos of him from last year.
Do people ever say it looks like Frank Sinatra?
No, but that's awesome, dude. I would love people to say that. That is awesome. He's so little. We would get, oh, he looks like you. He looks a little like you. That's kind of all we get.
That's super cool. Speaking of portraits, you shoot a lot of kids, but are there any famous athletes that you'd love to do a portrait photo shoot with? If you shoot any athlete, alive or dead.
Any athlete, alive or dead?
Yeah, like a celebrity.
Being a California kid, as an athlete, Kobe Bryant, to be able to just have a time to sit down with him, maybe ask him some questions, quick interview and like a little photo op, a little expose on Kobe, that would be the number one. I really wanted to get into golf last year. So Tiger Woods or any like the top, Scotty Scheffler, any of the top 3 guys right now would be fun to, Golf Magazine was like, hey, we'd love to have you go photograph. We're doing an article on this guy. I would love an opportunity like that. I know I could produce some great images around that caliber of athlete and just have some fun and bring something great out of them.
All right. Another question for you. What do you see as the future of photography in like 20 to 30 years? Do you think photography will exist as we know it, or will be virtual reality and AI? What are your thoughts on the future of
It's a
photography?
It's a really good question. So I might be rare in this thought, but I actually think that in 2008, when the iPhone came out, I think it only lifted up photographers higher. It definitely separated the people that were not doing a great job and the people that do a great job. So when the iPhone
Yeah.
came out, it allowed the average person to now learn how to take a decent photo. But what I think it did was it separated the average person and their ego from that photo. A lot of people think that moving into the future, technology will X out the photographer, but I almost think the opposite. I think it's just going to keep a bigger separation between the people that are great at it and pivot into the worlds that use technology to their benefit. I'm probably speaking on myself for this because I do use technology to a higher degree with my photography to elevate it. But all things considered, like you used to have to learn how to use Photoshop to touch up faces. Now AI does touch ups. That might make the touch up artist more obsolete, but that only enhances my photography because my workflow is easier. My
Faster, yeah.
process is quicker, right? So now when I do a set of portraits, now I can get the faces, the teeth whitened, the eyes popped. I can blur the background a little bit more, and it's done in 30 seconds of photo, and they're out, processed, they're online to view. Versus I don't have to go to a touch-up artist, or worst case, you're spending, I hear photographers complain all the time, I spend too much time editing. I'm like, I spend majority of my time outsourcing or getting the work. So trying to get work. I spend the shortest amount of my time actually with the camera in my hand. And I probably spend the next shortest amount of time actually editing, but that's just the process of which I've put together. Right? If you're producing 5 photos, but you're taking 5 hours to get those out to the client, like you need to figure out a way to speed that up because it's killing your business. Some people are going to love AI, some people aren't. People get these like AI headshots now of themselves. Big businesses, when they meet somebody that has an AI photo as their portrait, they build this weird thing in their mind about them. But you couldn't even put a real picture of yourself. You have to use like an AI photo of yourself.
Yeah, the people will be like, "Oh, you're using AI. What are you hiding? What are you hiding about yourself? Where you have to use a AI photo of yourself."
You'll say agents are famous for this, but the photo that you see on their business card or on their website is when they were 22 and now they're 52. If I'm going to hire you, I need you to be real, especially if you're going to make a chunk of change off the sale. I need to know who you are. And to each their own, I guess.
Let me see if we have any more photos left here.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just do this last photo, then I'll show you some of my jiu-jitsu photos and get
that's awesome. Let's do it.
Your experience on that. This is an epic group.
Oh yeah. With every martial arts academy, we do a team photo that everyone that participates in the session. This was actually comprised of one franchise called Irvine Taekwondo, or Regulus is their new branding. So this is a group of kids from 2 different locations kind of pooled into one photo. This is like our bread and butter. This is the one thing that's really separated us from all the other industry. We're the only ones that can do this at this level. I think this is somewhere around the 85, 86 kids, all individually photographed in the team photo stands and on Photoshop. I actually have a video of this. I probably should have sent to you, but it's a time lapse of me creating this photo. It probably took 40 minutes. Now I have it down to a pretty much of a science to create this. Generally, I drop every kid into the template. The background is a pre-made backdrop. I actually shot that room at a prior academy. I put their logo in the background on the wall, so it looks like it's already hanging. I drop it in the front. Then I drop in every kid, and then I make them a certain percentage size, and I just start to play, usually based on size, not belt rank. So little, medium, bigger adults go from bottom to top.
But you do have like the black belts at the top and the white belts at the bottom.
Yeah, this one specifically, they asked for that. I did put the black belts at the top. Luckily, most times black belts aren't little kids, but works. And for other academies, generally, I'll just put the professors, the masters, the teachers in the center of the photo at the top. We leave all the other belt rankings just to size and height for all the kids. The guy in the middle, he's the owner of both locations, and he was very specific for that. It's just a Taekwondo academy. If you tried to take all these kids and pose them together, it wouldn't look like that. You would need bleachers. You would need a pretty extensive light setup to get everyone lit up evenly like that. And then again, you'd have to have the best control ever to get the little tiny kids at the front to look at you and give you a perspective and a facial.
Their eyes would be closed or something like that.
I mean, you get 5 people or more together and it's impossible to not get a blink. I think most people see this and they don't quite realize it's fake because it could be done on bleachers. But once I explain what I do, people are kind of blown away that that's possible.
Awesome. All right, let me get my jiu-jitsu shot here real fast.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let me share So like I said, my coworker does jiu-jitsu tournaments. I brought my camera along. This is kind of near the beginning of my career. I wasn't that great with shutter speed and stuff like that, but I do like how this one came out.
Oh yeah.
This is one of the few times I saw a girl go against a boy and she took him out. She choked him out in this photo.
Yeah. That's a great photo, dude. So she has a back take or a back mount here, and she actually has a rear naked choke, which is like one of those like very early chokes you learn in jiu-jitsu. What I love about this photo, obviously you hit it in a good spot, but the expressions on both their faces just screams what's going on in this fight. You know what I mean? Like you can see the desperation on him. He's about to go to sleep, and then her, just that grit. She's biting down on that mouthpiece, and she is squeezing, you know? It's a great photo, dude. And sometimes you capture a moment and you nail it the moment that the person that's purchasing it or the person you're giving it to is so happy on it. All those little technical things that we may be like, oh, I didn't nail this or nail that. They don't even matter because you captured the raw essence of that moment. It's an awesome photo. I don't think I have a photo that has this much emotion in it from jiu-jitsu from both people. Usually you get it from one or the other, but it's a great catch, dude.
And his face is turning red. I like that part too.
Yeah, he's
gonna be going to sleep. Lucky shot.
To me, luck is like preparation and hard work showing itself. You know what I mean? You were prepared. You had your camera up. You had your settings good. Your lighting is great. You were ready to go. They gave you this moment and you captured it. It's the hardest thing as a photographer.
And now here's a funny one. Here's the funny side of jiu-jitsu. I titled this photo "Timeout" on account of butt crack. She literally called timeout because his shorts were like falling down in this picture.
Yeah, this happens all too often in matches. You know, we're pulling and pushing and yanking on each other, and if your belt's not tight, you know, your pants aren't tight, you get the butt crack showing. It's good on the ref for stopping it and allowing him to fix himself because that could have got out of hand a little quickly there. But that's funny. That's a good time. You can actually see her doing the timeout sign, which was really cool.
I don't know if this guy is still doing it. This was taking a long time ago, so I don't know if this guy is still doing jiu-jitsu. If so, I apologize to him, but I just found it really funny when I caught this photo.
Yeah. No, there isn't a person that has done a jiu-jitsu tournament or trains jiu-jitsu that hasn't had these moments where you have to just stop and pull your pants up. It happens on a daily basis if you train. So this is awesome, man. It's really funny.
Awesome. We've seen all the pictures. You answered all my questions. Any final thoughts? How do you prefer people reach out to you? Instagram, your website? If someone wants to contact you, how do you prefer people to reach out?
Instagram is our number one way. The clients that I've made, it's almost 90% through Instagram. Again, I'm persistently annoying. So if anyone wants to reach out, questions, talk, we're always looking to, I've been lucky in my career where people have let me come onto their shoots and just watch. If anyone ever wanted to do that, just hit me up on Instagram. Gladly have you out if you want to try to learn something for the day. I'm not going to pay you to sit around, but you can come watch and hang out.
Awesome, man. Well, Happy New Year. Appreciate you coming on the podcast. Love looking at the photos and talking shop. And I'll see you on Instagram. Thank you so much.
Awesome, man. Yeah. Aloha and have a good New Year. Happy New Year, guys.